What's going on, people? Welcome back to another video. If you are watching this on the day, then I just want to wish everybody out there a happy new year. Hope you guys had a fantastic holiday season, and let's get ready to embrace the onslaught that is 2019 video gaming. That first month is stacked. So for my final video of 2018, I really wanted to end it off talking about Nintendo and their year in review, because it's been a pretty interesting year for the Nintendo Switch, to say the least. There's been a lot of discussion going around on whether or not this year lived up to the monstrous year that was 2017. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But we've seen a lot of interesting things happen with Nintendo in 2018, and unfortunately a lot of things that we all wanted to happen, well, didn't. So I might as well just run down some of the things that I thought were pretty cool, that I really enjoyed seeing, and let's talk about the stuff that, well, they didn't give us at all. So as far as game releases for the year, Nintendo has been really interesting, because one thing that I've noticed as I was going down the list from January to now is that Nintendo released 3 different kinds of games, 3 different categories of exclusives. The first category was the, well, expected Wii U ports, which I'll touch more on later. The second category was their new releases, so their bigger AAA marquee titles, a la Super Smash Bros. And the third title was actually something I was very surprised, considering Nintendo's track record with this particular way of distribution, and that was DLC. So starting off with the Wii U ports, to no shocker to anybody, Nintendo brought it heavy for the first 6 months of 2018, and unfortunately those were the majority of releases that, well, people actually gave a damn for the first 6 months. Not to take anything away from Bayonetta 1+2 and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Damage Control, but when you're advertising those games as big releases for the Nintendo Switch, and at full price I might add, it's kind of really hard to make a compelling case that those games are worth picking up on the Switch, especially if you've already owned and played the games on the Wii U. Yes, you do have the portability aspect attached to it. Yes, there are a group of people who haven't experienced these games, so technically they would be considered new experiences. Come on, man, don't make that excuse. Now, while I do personally love all of the ports coming out on the Nintendo Switch, whether they are from Nintendo or third parties, there is one thing that I think we were pretty much all in agreement of when talking about the Switch. While those games are great and they help bolster the library, they're not something that you're going to run out and buy the system over. Those are things that you sprinkle in between all of the bigger, more profile releases to sort of fill in the droughts that we saw with the Nintendo Wii U. It's kind of funny that Nintendo Wii U games are being used to fill the Nintendo Switch drought when those were the games that were meant to kill the Wii U drought. Whoa. This is just ironic. As far as the first 6 months are concerned, we really didn't see any in the way of heavy-hitting titles from Nintendo. You had 2 titles in particular that I guess were supposed to make some type of an impact. You had Kirby Star Allies, which was, not going to get into right now. And of course you had Mario Tennis Aces, which a lot of people believed would be the game. Considering Nintendo has had this weird track record as of late with reviving older franchises and actually giving a damn, a lot of people were expecting this to be the next Mario Kart where everyone's going to get together and they're going to have all their friends. Nintendo has learned their lesson from past games, and if you guys checked out my review, while the game is fun and Nintendo is supporting with updates, the game itself should not have released in the situation that it did. There was so much missing from the game on release. I can't even fathom how Nintendo actually would come out there and say, hey, we listened to you guys, we added in this story mode, sure it's shallow and half-baked, but you guys wanted a story mode, right? And think that that was somehow okay after they just released Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. Like that right there, I'm agreeing with you. This ain't it, Chief. Again, inherently, those games aren't necessarily bad because the core mechanics are there. It's just that they aren't something that you are going to run out and buy a Switch, especially for $65. I'm just going to be real with y'all. No one out here should be spending $65 on Kirby anything. Unless it is a Kirby Air Ride remaster, because hell yeah. So the first half of 2018 really wasn't looking great. Let's look into the second half, and we kicked it off strong in the summer with Octopath Traveler, and yeah, that's the last time people talked about Octopath Traveler, because the game came out, it did its thing, and that was it. It was a long-ass Japanese RPG, so of course it was going to alienate the vast majority of the audience, but the game itself was great. It sold to its target audience. In fact, I think that it sold more to its target audience if you see that Square Enix has so many problems supplying the game in Japan. But a game like Octopath Traveler is not really something that again, you are going to run out there and buy a Nintendo Switch, or you're going to run out there and tell someone, hey, you need to pick up this game. Sure, it's a great game, but let's be honest, you guys, there are certain games that come out throughout the year that you can recommend, that are fun, that are great experiences, but they are not system sellers, at least not to the vast majority of consumers. And rounding off the list for Wii U ports in the summer, we had Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which was admittedly a pretty fun game. Nintendo actually sent it over to the channel to check out. And while I had a lot of fun with it, it's just a Wii U port. And it's not really a Wii U port that people were clamoring over. I'm pretty sure you heard a lot more people clamoring for this game to come to the Switch rather than Captain Toad. You ended off August with Monster Hunter, which, you know why I'm here. And then you move into the fall season where Nintendo debuted their big guns, and by big guns I mean Pokemon Let's Go Casual version 1 and Pokemon Let's Go Casual version 2. In fear of offending half the Nintendo audience, I am going to leave it at that. And then Smash Bros came out, which, let's be honest, Smash Bros, that was their biggest title of the year. It was the sole reason why they focused specifically on this one game during E3, because Smash Bros was monumental, and the way that Nintendo advertised it, the way that they were going about just treating this as like the second coming of Jesus was warranted, because this was a celebration of all things Smash Bros. Not only that, of all things gaming, with all the guest characters introduced and some of the guest characters who are coming next year. Things like that are very hype-worthy, and I am so glad that a game like Smash Bros. Ultimate exists. To me, it's not just another Smash Bros. To me, it's not just another portable version of Smash Bros. Smash Bros. Ultimate represents so much love, passion, creativity throughout the long-ass history of games, and the fact that Sakurai right here is able to put out all of these games constantly, and yet he still looks like that. This man is a fucking vampire. I'm just gonna come out and say this shit, man. Can we get that Twilight reboot with this nigga? Matter of fact, cast this nigga in the Blade reboot. That's all I'm gonna say. We out here subverting expectations. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, Nintendo had 3 different ways of releasing content to you, the consumer. Oh, I didn't mean to flip y'all the bird. That was actually unintentional, but you know. You had the Wii U ports to Nintendo Switch, you had their marquee titles, and then you had a third distribution model, which was something that I was actually very surprised to see Nintendo do, and that was downloadable content. Now, Nintendo has gone on record for so many years now saying that they were unwilling to do DLC. DLC was really not one of their strong suits. They weren't willing to nickel and dime the consumers, and it's kind of funny how they came back to eat their own words, but to be honest, if you're looking at the distribution model of Nintendo and how they're handling things compared to other companies, Nintendo is actually giving you a lot of bang for your buck. So this year in particular, we had 2 major expansions, Donkey Kong in Mario plus Rabbids, and of course, the big one, which honestly could have been its own separate game, but it's considered DLC. You had Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna, the Golden Country, which I am still working on, and that motherfucker is gonna get its own 45-minute video, because that right there, had Smash Bros. Not come out, would be my game of the year for the Switch. How in the world DLC could be a game of the year for a console, I do not know, but if it was a category, Torna, just for the music alone. Can I get an amen? Any of y'all play Torna? Comment down below, please. Tell these motherfuckers. Inform them of the truth. We had seen Nintendo do DLC for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and we'd seen them do it for some of their smaller games, but never to the full-on point where they actually release expansion packs. And Torna the Golden Country was something that I was very excited to see, considering the original Xenoblade Chronicles was already this vast, massive game, and they're coming out here with this full-on expansion that improves a lot of the core mechanics of the game, and it listens to the fan feedback. That right there is actually pretty surprising. However, that being said, that was essentially all of the highlights of the year when it came to Nintendo and their game releases. If you're looking at this list and you're comparing it to 2017 and some of the bigger titles that they had there, it just doesn't compare. I mean, I'm sure you can compare and contrast some of the things like, oh, they had an equal amount of Wii U ports versus marquee titles and such. But when you're comparing the impact of something like Breath of the Wild in the beginning of the year and Super Mario Odyssey at the end of the year, both of which in the same year, to 2018, the only game that comes close is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And you didn't get that game until literally the last month of 2018, which is kind of disappointing. You have to wait an entire year just to play Smash Bros. Looking into the eShop, however, you do see that the support is just astronomical and out of control, so much to the point where I'm kind of getting worried of all of the content and the curation on the platform, because it's just getting out of control, man. Nintendo really needs to go out there and revise some of the things, because there would be games dropped on the eShop that I had no idea existed, and I'm just like, whoa, that's on the Switch now? And that brings us into another thing that was supposed to be a big priority in 2018, and that is the Nintendo Switch online experience. It came out, and nothing happened. Now, I could be that dude and say, I told you so, because I made multiple videos saying, hey guys, it doesn't look like Nintendo's actually putting effort into this service. They're just using this service to charge you money. I don't think we're going to be getting anything in the ways of user feedback being handled and all that stuff. And then, of course, people had to yell at me and say, I didn't know what I was talking about. I was just an ignorant Sony drone. Nintendo's for the consumers this, Nintendo's listening that. Papa Reggie, blah, 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 and yeah, how's that working out? How's that working out, y'all? On paper, it sounds like it'd be a good idea. You start charging for a service and you expect that service to get better. Whether or not you agree with PlayStation and Xbox charging $60 a year for your service, you can definitely see that their service, by comparison to Nintendo, even with their premium $20 a year subscription that you could subsidize when you have a family plan, it just does not compare. In fact, the free service on the Nintendo Switch doesn't even compare to the PS3 free online. I mean, at least the PS3 had more games use dedicated servers than the Switch. Like, you guys are paying for this service. They're supposed to be giving you these things. What are you paying for that justifies $20 a year? Just because you can play Smash Bros? You could play Smash Bros before on the Wii U and the 3DS, and that was free. Yet the online on the Switch that you're paying for is somehow just as bad? No virtual console? No eShop update? Like, guys, come on, be vocal. Start tagging Nintendo on Twitter. Air your grievances, because if you don't do that, they are not going to listen. Guys, this isn't Sony, this isn't Microsoft, where if you're loud enough, they'll listen to you. Nintendo, you gotta do everything and more. You gotta double that, you gotta triple that, because those are rookie numbers. It's just what we gotta do. I'm just being real about life here. And so here we are on the final day of 2018, and overall, Nintendo had just a whelming year. I know you'll listen to all this stuff that I said in the video, and it may seem to you that Nintendo had content. They put out the games for the gamers, which they did, but when you look at those particular games and you see how little effort went into them, you look at the price tag attached to them, and you look at what could have been in 2018, especially following up on the crazy momentum that 2017 garnered. I think that right there is what a lot of people are forgetting in this situation. 2017 was one of the most important years in Nintendo history. It was the 180 year. After the failure that was the Nintendo Wii U, all of us thought that Nintendo couldn't make a proper comeback. They needed to ditch all this weird, unconventional thinking and just go back to making standard consoles, or just stick in the handheld realm. They did a hybrid of both, and it worked out amazingly. However, as this year has shown us, sometimes all of that hype, it can be misguided, and a lot of the things that we were willing to give Nintendo a pass on this year, we really can't do. Like, for example, something I also got criticized for last year. Where was all the big titles that Nintendo announced? Where was Bayonetta 3? Where was Metroid Prime? Where were all of these games that people said Nintendo doesn't like to announce early? Nintendo likes to announce a game and then release it in the same year. I mean, I thought that was something only Sony did. I thought only Sony announced a game 2 years out. Like, what's going on with all these Nintendo Switch games that are coming out in 2019 that were announced in 2018 and 2017? Like, really? Really? Would I go so far as to say 2018 was a bad year for the Nintendo Switch? I would not, because even 2018, at some of its lowest points, are considerably higher by comparison to the past 5 years in Nintendo history. Like, the fact that you had all of these games on the Switch, whether or not they were games you wanted to play, whether or not they were late ports, just contrast that to the Wii U, where they would go literally 6 to 8 months without getting a single game. The Nintendo Switch at least got something to play for the most part every single month of 2018. You could attribute that to the fact that they're just, digging into the Wii U's grave and just pulling out all of its titles and making them portable. Hey, it's a smart business move, that's all I gotta say. Now, while 2018 wasn't as extravagant as we all pictured, we can look forward into the future. 2019, however, is looking like what 2018 should have been, with the release of Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing. Fingers crossed we actually do see both Metroid Prime and Bayonetta, in addition to all of the other smaller partnership Nintendo has going on, and of course their unannounced exclusives. 2019 is looking like it's going to slap. I'm just being real. If all those games that Nintendo announced for the past 2 years hit 2019, that's it. There's literally no excuse out there to not buy a Nintendo Switch. Oh, I don't want to play Bayonetta 3 because I haven't played the other games, motherfucker. Y'all didn't buy it on the Wii U, you better buy it on the Switch. It's there. 2 games. 2 of the best action games. People spend more time complaining about Bayonetta and Smash Bros. Than actually buying her game. What kind of world do we live in? A world where Smash Bros. Players don't wash their ass? There is a lot to unpack for the future of Nintendo, but I'm going to save that for the obligatory yet redundant predictions video like we're all going to do, and hopefully at least half of our predictions come true. I'm going to end this video right here. From me to you for now, my name is NGS, signing out. Thank you guys so much for making 2018 another fantastic year here on YouTube. You guys have a happy and safe New Year's, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.